What up, guys? We at the Best Buy and show you how to get the Switch the easy way. Go behind customer service. Yeah. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. This guy almost got me. Not quite though. Easy. Once you cop the Switch, then all you gotta do is just leave. Super duper duper easy.
Quick disclaimer, because I know some of y'all are actually gonna believe it. I work here. Do not actually steal. I paid for my Switch. Don't be dumb, guys, please. I did it. I was able to get my hands on a Nintendo Switch 2. Now, this has pretty much been sold out since the past 3 days after launch. And every single retailer in my area has been pretty much sold out until now. But I was finally able to get one. So let's go ahead and unbox it. Alright. So here's the Nintendo Switch 2. Let's go ahead and unbox it. I know you probably have seen a ton of unboxing videos for this thing already, so I'll try and make it pretty quick. So off the bat, here we go. We have the Switch right here. Pretty amazing, pretty amazing. Let's start with the Joy-Cons, actually. I am more interested in the Joy-Cons than anything else because it actually looks like that they are they're much larger than the original Joy-Cons for sure. And they have the little buttons here on the side that you can use as a smaller controller, one joystick, and one of the things I'm actually interested in is this pushing mechanism. Now this lever actually allows you to push off the magnetic attachments, while the other Switch used a sliding mechanism where the button would release the lock and then you would slide the Joy-Con out. But this pushes off, disconnecting that magnet on the side. So there's the blue Joy-Con. Let's go ahead and open up the orange one as well. So here's the orange one. Now I really like these Joy-Cons because they're definitely much larger than the other Joy-Cons as well. They fit. Now my hands aren't necessarily humongous, but they definitely fit better into my hands than the other ones. I really like that. All right, let's go ahead and set this to the side and get to the main prize. Here we have the Nintendo Switch 2 console. Now, if you look at it, it is much bigger than the previous Switch already. Now, something I also really like about this is that these are actually color-coded. Now, if you see that the inside here is blue, which color codes perfectly to this, the blue side. So you always know what side goes into where. And then, of course, you have the same thing on the orange one. Now, looking further into the box, we open this up. I have health, safety, pretty basic stuff. Don't forget to read that, folks. Read the fine print. And then we have our guards for the Joy-Cons. Now, these are pretty interesting because they come with the strap, as they do, but it also comes with these plastic mouse pads almost, because these guards actually function also as a mouse. These Joy-Cons can turn into mice, and they have a mice function. Now, I hear that this joystick is used as a scroll wheel, while the two trigger buttons are used as your right, left mice buttons. Now, I think that's a really interesting feature. I really like how, since the old Switch had a large range of motion, that these ones have the same idea using that range of motion as a mouse. Now, that is really innovative to me, and I really like it. And here we also have HDMI cable, pretty standard stuff. Not gonna worry too much about that. I'm putting this to the side. Now, it looks like we have an AC adapter. Now, this is pretty interesting because it's a little bit different than the last Switch. The last Switch, the AC adapter was all attached. I believe, yes, we have a Nintendo brand USB-C to C cable. Now, last generation, like I said, these two were attached. These were one unit, but now it's pretty nice that they have them separated. All right, next we have the grip. Now, this grip is where the two Joy-Cons magnetically attach. And I think that's a really neat thing too, that the grip also allows for magnetic attachment. Now, I never got the privilege of using this on my old Switch actually, because I bought it used and it didn't come with one of these grips. So I'm quite happy that I get a grip this time. I also really like the magnetic attachment. Sweet. All right, looking further into the box, we have our dock. There you go. We have our dock. Now this dock is pretty much what allows the Nintendo Switch 2 to operate at its full capacity. The dock has built-in fans which cools the Nintendo Switch 2, which allows for 4K output and 120 hertz, which is really nice. Now, a lot of people complain saying, oh no, it's essentially the same power as a PS4. But even if that is true, that it's exactly the same as a PS4, I think it's impressive enough already that a console that's no bigger than a tablet, really small if anything, can put out the same power that a PS4 can, the huge box with different fans built in. I think that's really impressive. Now, I'm going to go ahead and set up the Nintendo Switch and we will be right back. Alright, here I have my Switch 2 and my Switch OLED. Now, these are two very different consoles in my opinion. As you can see, the Switch 2 is noticeably larger compared to the Switch OLED. Now, although it is wider as far as this plane, when it comes down to your actual thickness, the Switch 2 is actually the same thickness as the original Switch, at least my Switch OLED. Now, that is honestly a pretty nice factor about it, that they kept it thin, but also larger, increasing display and comfortability with those larger joycons. Now, something about the Switch 2 that a lot of people are pretty upset with is that it does not have an OLED panel. Instead, it has an LCD panel, but in my opinion, I think it is a little more deserving of props because it has 120 hertz per second, and that's pretty much 120 FPS, which coupled with the HDR10 that is supported within this screen, I think it is a redeeming factor that makes me a little more okay with not having the OLED panel that we see in the Switch OLED. Now, one of the biggest differences in as far as size is that the Switch OLED has a 7-inch screen, while the Switch 2 has a 7.9-inch display. And the Switch OLED actually has a bigger screen than the original Switch, which this is still smaller than the Switch 2, which just emphasizes how large this display is, increasing viewing experience. Now, I am really excited to play on this. I don't believe that not having an OLED panel is going to make as much of a difference for me, just because of that I prioritize those frame rates and high dynamic colors. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. When talking about the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2, I kind of have to discuss Nintendo as a whole, and I just really appreciate the legacy that Nintendo has on the gaming community. And I was never really a part of that until I got my Nintendo Switch OLED. Now, I really enjoy the exclusives. When the Switch OLED was introduced to me, the exclusives were one of the biggest selling points. While I still haven't played all of them, I am hoping to. My first was Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I have to say it is an amazing game. Now, these exclusives already add on to my current library of games that I have on my PC or some of my friends' consoles. And the Nintendo Switch as a concept is pretty remarkable to me because it has the ability to be played in handheld mode, which is convenient. You can take it with you pretty much anywhere you go, but you can also remove the joycons and play as a controller or dock the Switch to play on a larger screen. Now, this adaptability was a large selling point for me, where you can take your console wherever you want, but if you want a little bit better gaming experience, and you're just tucked in for the night, you can play on a larger screen. Now for me, the Switch 2 adds on to that in a premium way because it adds a larger screen. So instead of feeling more like you're playing on a phone, you're playing more on a tablet with faster refresh rate and higher resolution. The joycons fit into my hands much better, which adds to that console feeling gaming experience. So bottom line is, I really enjoy the Switch 2 as a new Nintendo player. I recommend that if you really want those factors that I discussed, I think you should get it. But honestly, if there's not games that you want to play on it right now, it's not worth it. Maybe wait until a game that you like or that you're super excited for comes out for the Switch, and then potentially buy it. If you already have a Switch 1 or a Switch OLED, that is still an amazing gaming experience. But I do think that the Switch 2 is an objective upgrade. But anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you on the next one. Peace out.